In this lesson, we want to take a look at the different type of servers that you can have. Now, when it comes to servers, there's so many different options here. Let's go over to Hostgator is one of them. They have the normal web hosting. They have the VPS, virtual private server, and they have the dedicated, and other ones have the cloud hosting. So again, if you're just getting started, okay, let's go over to, haven't used this one, take this out. So let's go over to Bluehost. You notice that they have shared hosting, they have VPS, they have dedicated hosting. The same thing here with cloud access. They have manage. Now the major difference here is that if you're getting started, okay, let's just say you're getting started, you want to go with like a shared hosting first because it's cheaper. You can start for as little as like $3-4 or something like that. Let's check this one out. Like with the Lite, you start off at $2.95 per month. With this package, for example, so this comes with one website, unlimited SSD storage and transfer, 25 email accounts, free and easy, cPanel, free SSL certificate, anytime money back guarantee. So when you're getting started, any one of these packages here, whether you go with something here from Roshan, let's take a look at their web hosting packages. So they have one site, they have multiple sites. So it starts from $4.95 a month. So what happens, what happens is that they charge you a year in advance. So that's why you see sometimes 1 year, if you pay a year in advance, you're saving 12%. If you pay 3 years in advance, 3 years up front, that's how much it comes up to $4.95. So don't let this trick you. When I saw this a while ago, I got excited one time, like, oh, just $4.95 a month, and I went to process it, and the amount was for for 3 years up front. So they have multiple sites, and when you look at the specs here, 20 gigabytes SSD storage, which is okay. Now, when you're starting with the web hosting, even if you have like 10 gigabytes, that's still okay because you're not going to have a whole ton of content when you're just starting out. So something like the 20 gigs with this one here. Let's see what manage. Let's see what the packages are here. $5 for this one to get you started. What's the limit? They don't have the limit on here. But 20 gigs is disk space, which is okay. 2 gigs of RAM. Free staging URL. So what a staging URL is, you can be able to test things out, and 2 CPU core, unlimited email. So this one has limited emails. And I'm just kind of going through some of these here. We went through that one and went through this one. So once again, when you're getting started out, you want to go with like a shared hosting because that's okay. That gets you started. I see some of the people make this mistake. They get started and they want to just jump to a dedicated server. Now I'm going to explain when you need to get a dedicated server, but for majority of the people that are starting, you do not need to have a VPS or a dedicated server, and I'm going to explain why in just a minute here. So the shared hosting, meaning that you have a bunch of websites that is shared within your server. They usually have the similar IP addresses, so it's one thing to keep in mind. One thing about a shared hosting website is that if one website on that entire server is affected, it's going to affect the other websites. In other words, they may have to shut down your server if one site is affected. It's like, think about like a swimming pool. If you have a swimming pool and you have, let's say, 15 people in that swimming pool, if one person, let's say, start to bleed or something happen or whatever, it contaminates the whole thing. They would have to remove the person first, and then they would have to find a way to clean the water. So that's how it is when you have a shared hosting package, and in a nutshell. So that's one of the disadvantages, that if something happens and you're part of that server, then it is going to affect your site, and sometimes they have to shut it down to fix whatever that problem is. So that's something to keep in mind. So next you have a VPS server, which gives you a little bit more control. You have WHM panel, so you can be able to go in there. You can create reseller accounts. You can create different seed panels for clients. You can be able to, they can have their own seed panel because a VPS gives you a little bit more control. But once again, a VPS is still similar to a pool, where in a pool, let's take that same pool, but you have little blocks. You have, if the pool is divided into sections, where if something happened in one section, it may not affect the entire pool, but if you're part of that section, it's going to affect just that section of it. So that's what a VPS is. It gives you some security, a lot more security. Also have root access. Root access is your WHM panel, which you can be able to log in, and you can be able to create hosting packages. You can suspend accounts if you're providing hosting for clients. You can update things. You can create automated backups for the server for each site, things like that. And then finally, you have a dedicated hosting, which has fully managed. And what that means is that you have the company, like let's say Hostgator or Bluehost or any other company, they are going to be managing that for you. If you have any issues or anything, you let them know. They can be able to fix it. And they'll make sure things are going good for you. And most of them gives you a lot of flexibility. So dedicated servers are a lot more expensive. They are really expensive. If you're starting out, you don't need to pay $250 a month, or sometimes $120, whatever that amount is a month. When you're starting out, all you need is a basic site to get your site up and going. And as your need grow, then you can upgrade. I see people sometimes want to start off, high, and then end up realizing that wasn't a smart decision. So with the dedicated, it gives you a lot of flexibility, it gives you a lot more control. With the dedicated, you have your own server. So just like with the pool example, you actually own the pool this time. So you decide and determine what goes in that pool and who goes in that pool. So if there's an issue, if there's an error, you are able to take that out and work on it. And for security reasons too, you have multiple IP addresses, and you can have a named server with that. With it. So what a named server is just a dedicated server that's connected to it can be your domain name. So if someone is registering a domain name and you're hosting their website for them, they can use what's called a named server, so that it points back to your server, meaning that you're hosting that stuff up for them. And so that's really key to understand. Dedicated servers are great. They're awesome. They're fantastic. But you definitely want to make sure that you're not just getting it just to say you have a dedicated server. Like, you really have to have a need for it. And as you can see here, for example, this is more like an dedicated server with Roshan. They start off at the first package starts at $200 per month. Now you can see what I was talking about when I mean it's expensive. And this gives us 4 gigs of RAM, 100 gigs of SSD, 5 terabytes of monthly transfer data. And then the higher you go, the more expensive it gets. So you can go all the way to $1,740, which if you're getting started again, if you have the cash to just throw out, then you can certainly be my guest, to do that. But it gives you all the feature and all the stuff that comes with it. So you need to understand how that works. You kind of scroll through the website, whatever company that you're going with, and you kind of see migration, custom stack optimization. That's good. Ongoing management 24/7. So there's some key things that you just look at. One of the key things is just their security, and they will typically highlight the biggest feature within the first few blocks here. Let you know how much space you have. You can always elastic scaling, 100% uptime. Now this right here is key. 100% uptime. So that means it never really goes down, which provides a lot. That's why it starts at $200 a month, because they can guarantee that you're always going to be online no matter what, which is really great. And then this one here, I don't know if they have dedicated, but you can always, check them out. So those are the different types of servers that you have. And I wanted to make this very simple so that it's not complicated and you don't get confused and, start panicking. So I wanted to keep things very, very simple for you.